Hello, welcome back. If you are hearing this voice right now, it means you have found your way here to this quiet corner of the evening. And that is something worth noticing, something worth being gentle about. You made it through another day, whatever that day held, however long it felt, however heavy, however bright. It is now gently setting itself down beside you, like a bag you no longer need to carry. You can let it rest there. You don't have to pick it up again tonight. Tonight belongs to you. So wherever you are, in a soft bed, beneath warm covers, in a chair, by a window, lying on the floor, because sometimes that's what feels right, I want you to simply arrive here, arrive in this moment, in this body, in this breath. Let's begin there, with the breath. Take one slow breath in through your nose now. Feel your chest lift. Feel your belly expand. Hold it very gently for just a moment at the top, and breathe out, long and slow, like fog drifting off a quiet mountain. That's it, just like that. Let your shoulders drop. Let your jaw unclench. Let your hands become heavy in your lap or at your sides. Breathe in again, slowly, filling yourself up like a lantern filling with soft, golden light. And breathe out, releasing everything you don't need tonight, every worry, every unfinished thought, every half-formed plan. Just let it drift away on the exhale like smoke curling up into an open sky. There is nothing that needs solving tonight. There is nowhere you need to be. There is no one waiting for you. There are only these words and this breath and the slow, beautiful dark of evening gathering around you. Breathe in and breathe out again. Notice what your body is touching right now. The surface beneath you, the weight of a blanket, the softness of a pillow. Feel how those things are holding you, supporting you. You don't have to hold yourself up tonight. You can simply be held. Breathe in and out. In and out. Feel your eyes growing heavier with each breath. Not heavy in a tired or worried way. Heavy in the way that warm sunlight on a summer afternoon makes your eyelids want to close. That gentle, blissful kind of heavy. Let them close now if they haven't already. We are going somewhere tonight, somewhere very old and very peaceful, somewhere the world slows down to the speed of clouds. I want you to imagine, and you don't have to try very hard, just let the image arrive softly, like a photograph developing in warm water. Imagine you are standing at the edge of something extraordinary. The air is cool, clean, impossibly fresh, as though it has never been breathed before. Beneath your feet, ancient stone, flat and smooth and solid in a way that modern things rarely feel. Stone that has held thousands of quiet moments just like this one. And all around you, in every direction, the mountains, the great, green, cathedral mountains of Peru. We are going to Machu Picchu, the sanctuary in the clouds. Take one more slow, deep breath in, and as you breathe out, let yourself drift there, gently, the way a leaf drifts down from a high branch and floats, unhurried, to the soft earth below. You are drifting now. You are safe. You are here. You arrive in the late afternoon. The light is already beginning its slow, golden transformation. That hour when the sun stops being harsh and starts being tender. When everything it touches seems to glow from within, as though the light isn't landing on surfaces so much as being released by them. The path that brought you here was long, A winding road through mist and cloud, past waterfalls hidden behind curtains of green fern, past trees whose roots grip ancient stone like patient, gentle fingers. You have been climbing, not urgently, not athletically, just steadily, one quiet step at a time, upward through the living world. And now you are here. You pass through the ancient gate, a narrow opening in a wall of perfectly fitted stone, each block resting against its neighbor without mortar, held together by nothing but careful intention and the slow patience of centuries. You run your fingers along the edge of the stone as you pass through, just lightly, just to feel it. It is cool beneath your touch, faintly damp from the afternoon mist that comes and goes through these mountains like a shy visitor, and textured, not rough exactly, but ancient, worn smooth in some places by hands that came before yours, left raw in others where the stone remembers what it once was, deep inside the mountain. You step through, and there it is, Machu Picchu. The sanctuary in the clouds spread before you like something from a dream you've had before but could never quite hold on to when morning came. Terraces upon terraces climbing the mountainside in long green ribbons, each one bordered by low stone walls that catch the late light and hold it. Temples and plazas and long narrow buildings with perfectly trapezoidal windows, windows that frame pieces of sky and mountain the way a painter might, with absolute intention and impossible precision. And beyond all of it, rising into clouds that drift slowly past like great white thoughts, the peak of Huayna Picchu, the young mountain, standing watch over everything with the patience and quiet authority that only very old things possess. You stand very still for a long moment. The wind moves through the terraces with a soft sound like someone whispering in another language, something ancient, something kind. The tall grass that grows between the stones nods gently. A cluster of llamas grazes nearby on the highest terrace, their long necks moving slowly up and down, unbothered by the grandeur around them, perfectly at peace. You breathe in. The air here has a particular quality, a crispness that settles behind your eyes and in the back of your throat with something almost like sweetness. The altitude makes each breath feel more deliberate, more conscious, as though the air itself is asking you to slow down, to be more intentional, to take what you need and nothing more. There is a faint smell of damp earth and green growing things, the kind of smell that exists only at elevation, only where clouds come to rest for a moment on the mountain's shoulders. There is something beneath it, something mineral and deep, the smell of stone that has been here longer than memory. You breathe it in, and something in your chest loosens. Something you didn't know was tight. There is a terrace near the edge of the citadel that you have been guided toward, as though the place itself is steering you, the way a quiet hand on the shoulder might redirect you towards something beautiful you hadn't noticed. It is a wide stone terrace, bordered by a low wall just the right height for sitting. Below the wall, the mountain drops away in long, sweeping terraces of green, the ancient agricultural platforms still producing in some places, still holding their soil and their purpose after all these centuries. And below those, the forested slopes descend toward the valley floor, where the Urubamba River moves in slow silver curves between the mountains, catching what remains of the afternoon light. You sit down on the low stone wall. It is cool against you, not uncomfortably so, but refreshingly, the way a stone bench in a shaded garden feels on a warm afternoon. The kind of cool that says, rest here, stay a while. And then something arrives, a warmth around your shoulders, your arms, your whole body. A blanket, an alpaca blanket, thick and impossibly soft, in the colors of the mountains themselves, deep ochre and faded rust, and the warm brown of turned earth, with narrow stripes of Andean blue and cream woven through in a pattern that has been made in these highlands for generations beyond counting. The fibers are so soft, they barely feel like fabric at all. They feel like something between wool and cloud, something that exists in the narrow space between warmth and weightlessness. You pull it around yourself. You feel yourself sink, just slightly, just gently, into the simple animal comfort of being warm and still in a beautiful place. The wind moves across the terrace. It lifts the fringe of the blanket for a moment, and you feel it, cool and clean against your cheek, carrying with it the faintest suggestion of something floral. High-altitude wildflowers, perhaps, somewhere on the slope above you, small and hardy and impossibly fragrant, the way things that have to work hard to survive often are. You let your hands rest in your lap. You let your gaze soften and settle on the middle distance, on Machu Picchu, rising across the saddle of mountain in the golden afternoon light, its peak already beginning to catch the first hints of the sunset that is quietly, patiently building in the western sky. There is nothing you need to do right now, nowhere you need to go. No decision waiting, no notification, no alarm, no voice calling your name from another room. There is only this, the stone beneath you, the blanket around you, the ancient green terraces falling away below, the mountain standing before you in the gold of nearly evening, and the slow, patient sky above it all. Breathe in and out. The sun has begun its descent toward the peaks to the west, and as it does, the light over Machu Picchu begins its transformation. It happens slowly, the way all beautiful things happen when you give them enough time and quiet attention. Not in a single dramatic shift, but in a gradual deepening, a warming, a softening. The white afternoon light becomes cream, and then the palest gold, and then something richer, something amber and honeyed and ancient feeling, as though the light itself has been here before and is returning to a place it loves. The stone of the citadel responds. All around you, the walls and platforms and temples of Machu Picchu begin to glow. Not brightly, nothing here is loud, but warmly, deeply, from within their texture. Each stone face catches the angled light differently. Where the granite is smooth and worn, the light slides across it like water. Where it is rougher, older, the light settles into each small hollow and pore and brings out colors you hadn't noticed before. Pale green where lichen has been growing slowly for decades. The faintest orange pink in the iron veins of the rock, deep grey-brown in the shadows between the fitted edges. The citadel has been here for nearly 600 years, and still, every evening it does this. It receives the light, transforms it, holds it for a while, and then lets it go. You find yourself watching a single stone in the wall across from you, just one stone, roughly rectangular, set in place by hands whose owners have been gone for centuries, perfectly fitted against its neighbors above and below and on either side. As the light deepens, the stone reveals itself more fully. The subtle ridges left by ancient tools, the shallow depression near its center, where rainwater has pooled and dried thousands of times, the constellation of tiny crystals embedded in the granite that catch the low sun and glint, very faintly, like stars in miniature. You think about the hands that placed it there. Someone climbed this mountain, perhaps many times, and worked here in the thin air of high altitude, shaping this stone, carrying it, setting it precisely into its place. They may have paused the way you're pausing now, in the late afternoon light, with the same mountains all around, with the same wind moving through the same grasses. They may have looked up at the same Machu Picchu and felt the same wordless peace that you are feeling now. 600 years apart, you share this moment with them. The thought drifts through you like smoke through still air, touching everything, leaving no mark, but somehow changing the quality of the space inside you. Breathe in and out. You pull the alpaca blanket a little tighter around your shoulders. The fibers are so dense, so perfectly insulating, that the warmth they hold feels almost alive, as though you are being embraced rather than simply covered. Your fingers curl around the edge of the fabric, and you notice the texture there. The fine, tight weave of the border, slightly stiffer than the body of the blanket. The fringe at the corners, loose and silky between your fingers. Small things, quiet things. These are the things worth noticing tonight. A llama moves on the upper terrace above you, a soft sound of hooves on stone, a rustle in the grass. You glance up and see it there, a cream-colored creature with a gentle expression and impossibly long eyelashes, watching the same sunset you are. It lowers its head, tears up a mouthful of grass, chews slowly in the last gold of the afternoon. You smile, just a little. There is something deeply comforting about animals, about the way they inhabit the present moment completely, without nostalgia, without anticipation. This llama has no opinion about what tomorrow holds. It only knows the grass and the wind and the warmth on its back. For a moment, you try to be like the llama. Just the warmth, just the stone, just the fading light. The sun touches the western peaks, and the sky, already beautiful, already worthy of sustained and reverent attention, begins to do something extraordinary. It starts at the horizon, where the mountains cut their jagged line against the first blush of color. A pale, warm pink appears there first, so faint you might have imagined it, spreading upward in the gentlest of gradients. Above it, the sky deepens to lavender, a true, soft, old-fashioned lavender, the color of dried flowers and distant evenings. And higher still, the dome of the sky holds on to its daytime blue, but transformed now, no longer the bright, functional blue of afternoon, but something deeper and more mysterious, the blue of depth, the blue of water that goes down and down. And then the pink brightens. Over the course of what might be 20 minutes or might be 20 hours, time has loosened its grip up here in the thin air. The colors deepen and multiply. The pink becomes coral, and then rose, and then something that has no simple name, a complex, luminous warmth that the atmosphere carries like a held note in a very old song. Bands of apricot and amber settle near the horizon. A streak of pale gold catches the underside of a lone cloud that has drifted in from the east, and it glows, briefly, brilliantly, like a lantern seen through fog. Machu Picchu holds all of this light. The mountain's face, turned toward the west, catches the full flowering of the sunset. Its stone walls, ancient Inca terraces spiraling up toward the summit, burn with a rose-gold warmth. The forest that clings to its upper slopes turns from dark green to something closer to bronze. The peak itself is touched last, and for a moment it is surrounded by a halo of light, so warm and so soft that it looks less like a mountain and more like something placed there by a thoughtful hand. You watch this in silence, or rather in near silence, because Machu Picchu at dusk is not truly silent. The wind continues its low, steady conversation with the grass. Somewhere in the ruins behind you, a small bird sings a single repeated phrase, 3 notes, over and over, like something being gently remembered. Below, in the deep forested valley, insects begin their evening song, a soft and continuous sound that rises with the cooling of the air. These sounds do not disturb the quiet. They are part of it. They are what quiet actually sounds like in places like this. You close your eyes for a moment and you listen. The wind, the bird, the insects far below. Your own breath moving in and out, slow and warm beneath the alpaca blanket. When you open your eyes again, the colors have deepened once more. This is the gift of sunsets. They do not wait for you to watch them, but they do not punish you for looking away. They simply continue their transformation, patient and gorgeous, and when you return your attention to them, there is always something new to discover. The shadows on the terraces below have grown long and blue. The stone walls that border each level cast thin lines of shadow across the grass, precise, architectural, catching the last geometry of the day in perfect parallel lines. A small cascade of water that has been running quietly along a stone channel at the terrace's edge catches the pink sky and reflects it upward, a narrow ribbon of color moving steadily down through the ancient city as it has been moving for centuries. You hadn't noticed the water before. Isn't that the way of beautiful things? There is always more to notice if you give them enough time. You feel your breathing slow even further. Your heartbeat, measured against the slow pace of the sunset, feels right-sized tonight. Not rushed, not anxious, just ticking along steady and sufficient, like a good clock in a quiet room. They come from below. That is the surprising thing about cloud at this altitude. It doesn't descend from above like weather. It rises from the valleys, from the warm, moisture-heavy forests of the Yungas below, drifting upward on warm air currents as the valley floor cools and the mountain releases its warmth. The mist that wraps itself around Machu Picchu at dusk comes from below and from the sides, climbing the mountain like something returning home. You watch it approach from the valley, a soft, white movement in the darkening air below the terraces, formless, gentle, moving not with the purposefulness of wind-driven clouds, but with something more like wandering. It rises past the lower terraces, curls around a stone doorway, drifts across a stretch of open grass, and softens the edges of everything it touches. When it reaches you, it arrives as a barely perceptible coolness against your cheek. Not wet, not cold, just softer than air. A breath of something thinner and more delicate than the ordinary atmosphere. You feel it move across the back of your hand where it rests on top of the blanket, and then the mist settles. The terraces below you soften into pale suggestion, green shapes receding behind gauze, stone walls becoming outlines, the silver thread of the Urubamba River disappearing entirely into white. The forest on the slopes below wraps itself in cloud and becomes a dark suggestion, a breathing presence rather than a visible thing. But Machu Picchu itself remains clear around you, as though the mist has a sense of decorum, a respect for the citadel, and contents itself with framing the sight rather than obscuring it. The temples and plazas and terraces where you sit hold their clarity. You can still see the fitted stones, the perfect walls, the doorways aligned with the ancient compass of the sky. And Huayna Picchu, the great mountain across the saddle, rises above the mist entirely. Its base disappears into the white, but its peak stands clear and composed against the deepening color of the sky. It floats there above the cloud, independent, untethered, like something from a story about the world as it was very long ago. The mist muffles sound further. The bird's three-note song grows more distant, softer. The wind drops almost entirely, as though the arriving mist has stilled it. There is a hush that settles over the mountain now, the particular hush of a world wrapping itself in cloud, becoming private, retreating from the day into something more inward. You feel it in your own body, a deepening of the quiet inside you. Your thoughts, which have been present but gentle throughout this hour, begin to slow and soften. Not disappearing, thoughts don't disappear when you're falling asleep so much as they become more fluid, more like images than words, more like the shapes of things than the things themselves. You think about nothing in particular, and that is enough. You pull the blanket closer. The softness of it against your neck and chin is extraordinary, like being touched by something that has no hard edge in it anywhere. The alpaca fiber doesn't scratch or pull or snag. It only gives, only softens, only warms. Your eyes are very heavy now, but the sky, oh, the sky is worth keeping them open for just a little longer. Because the first stars are beginning to appear. It happens so gently that you almost miss it. One moment the sky above Huayna Picchu is simply deep, that deep blue-violet of high altitude in the last moments after sunset, when the sky has stopped glowing but the stars haven't yet committed to appearing. The next moment there is a point of light, just one, small and steady, not quite twinkling yet, too high, too clear for that, just present. A first, a pioneer, a single point of ancient light that has been traveling for a very long time to arrive here, at the edge of your vision, on this exact evening. You see it, and something happens in your chest, a recognition, not of this particular star necessarily, but of the act of seeing a first star. Something in you, something much older than your education, much older than your habits, and your schedule and your to-do list, responds to this with a kind of reverence, a kind of wonder that doesn't need to be reasoned through or explained. The first star. A second appears, and then a third, not far away, a small cluster, faint but distinct, in the southern half of the sky. And then, as though the sky has been waiting for you to notice these pioneers before revealing the rest, the stars begin to appear in earnest. They come one by one at first, and then in small groups, and then faster, the sky filling in the way a photograph used to develop in a dark room, slowly resolving from darkness into detail. The deep violet of the high sky brightens with them. The first ones grow clearer, more committed, and begin the gentle pulsing that altitude and thin air allows, not wild twinkling, but a slow, subtle shimmer, like a candle seen through water. At this elevation, nearly 2,400 meters above sea level, the air is thin enough to see stars that are invisible from the valleys below. The atmosphere above you is less thick, less full of moisture and dust and the scattered light of human settlement. The sky is cleaner here, more transparent, more honest. The Milky Way begins to emerge. It appears as a suggestion first, a faint thickening of stars in a broad diagonal band across the sky. Then your eyes adjust further, and the suggestion becomes a presence, a river of light, ancient and immense, arching from one horizon toward the other, containing within it more stars than you could count in a lifetime of cloudless nights. The Inca had a name for the dark bands within the Milky Way, the places where the starlight is interrupted by interstellar dust. They called them the dark constellations, the shadow of a llama, the serpent, the fox. They read meaning in the darkness between the stars, the way others read meaning in the stars themselves. You look for the dark llama somewhere in the band of the galaxy, and for a moment, just a moment, before thought returns, you think you see it. A shadow within the brightness, shaped like something long-necked and patient. And then it's just the galaxy again. Just light. Just the impossible, ordinary miracle of a clear night sky above an ancient mountain. Machu Picchu is a dark shape now against this luminous background, its familiar profile unmistakable even in silhouette, like the face of an old friend recognized in dim light. The mist below it has taken on a faint blue-silver luminescence from the rising starlight, and the mountain appears to float, serene and enormous, between the glowing earth and the burning sky. You are very warm inside the alpaca blanket, very still, very quiet. Your breathing has slowed to the rhythm of the mountain, or perhaps the mountain has slowed to the rhythm of your breathing. It's hard to say, from this perspective, where one ends and the other begins. The city around you has grown very quiet. In the daylight hours, even empty of its original inhabitants, Machu Picchu has a vitality to it, the play of light across the stone, the movement of llamas, the way sound carries across the plazas and up from the valley below. But now, in the deep dusk settling toward night, the citadel has entered a different state, a resting state. The stone walls around you hold the warmth they gathered during the afternoon, releasing it slowly into the cooling air. If you placed your hand flat against the nearest wall, and you do, reaching out from within your cocoon of alpaca warmth, you would feel it. A gentle heat, as though the stone is slowly exhaling. The warmth of a day stored in granite and now returned to the night air like a gift from the past 8 hours. The terraces are deeply shadowed now, their edges defined only by the faint contrast between dark stone and the starlit sky. The grass that grows between the ancient walls has ceased its daytime movement. The wind has died almost entirely with the arrival of night, and the whole landscape has settled into a deep, dimensional stillness. You notice the silence the way you might notice the weight of a warm hand placed gently on your shoulder. Not empty silence, full silence. The difference is important. Empty silence is what happens when everything leaves. Full silence is what happens when everything settles, when the world doesn't go away, but simply stops performing. When it rests in its own presence without needing to make itself known. Machu Picchu is resting in its own presence, and so, now, are you. Your thoughts have become very slow and very soft, like the mist itself, present but not demanding, drifting through without urgency, not requiring response or resolution. An image rises. The stone wall you were looking at with its crystal inclusions catching starlight now instead of sunlight. A feeling rises, warmth gathered and held, like the stone holds the day's heat. A sound drifts through somewhere in the citadel. That small bird sings its 3 notes again. Sleepy now, half-hearted, a final affirmation before sleep. 3 notes. And then quiet. You let yourself sink, not fall, sink. The way you might sink slowly into warm water, incrementally, gratefully. the surface of your ordinary thoughts and concerns growing more distant as you go deeper, until those surface things are just ripples far above you, barely visible in the diffuse light. Down here, deeper than thought, there is only sensation. The weight of the blanket, the coolness of the air on your face, the faint smell of night flowers, something small and white blooming on the slope above in the darkness. The stone beneath you, solid and patient. The stars above, distant and steady. The stones of Machu Picchu are very old, not as old as the mountain they sit on. That is older than almost anything, but old in human terms. Old enough to have held all kinds of lives, all kinds of voices, all kinds of silences. You don't need to know the history to feel it. It is in the quality of the stone itself, the way the granite has been shaped, not to fight the mountain but to continue it. The builders here worked with what the mountain offered. They draped their terraces over its natural contours. They aligned their temples not to impose a human geometry on the landscape, but to participate in the geometry that was already there, the angles of the peaks, the paths of the sun and moon and stars, the direction of the wind. They listened to this place, and then they built what the listening told them to build. You think about listening now, in the dark, real listening, the kind where you set down your own noise and let the world speak. It's rare in ordinary life. There is always another layer of sound, another layer of thought, filling the space between you and what is actually here. But Machu Picchu makes it easy. The thin air, the altitude, the age of the place, the mist, the stars. Something about the combination asks you to become very quiet and then simply receive. And so you do. You receive the soft sound of the wind returning now, a barely there breath across the terraces, not enough to move the grass, just enough to remind you that the mountain is breathing. You receive the smell of the night, deeper now, cooler, carrying the mineral memory of the stone and the distant green of the forest canopy far below. And something else, something harder to name. The smell of high altitude itself, perhaps. The smell of air that has risen from the Amazon basin and been purified by altitude until it has become this, the cleanest possible version of breath. You receive the weight of the blanket. You receive the steady warmth beneath it. You receive the dark shape of Huayna Picchu against the stars, your companion throughout this evening, patient and constant, wearing the Milky Way like a crown now. You receive the knowledge that you are resting in a place where rest was understood. The people who built this city understood that the sky matters, that the stones matter, that the body needs warmth and the spirit needs beauty and the mind needs quiet. They built places for all of these things, places aligned with solstices, places where water was coaxed from the mountain in careful channels, places where the wind came through at exactly the right angle, places like this terrace, facing the mountain, facing the sky. They built places for people to pause and be present, and here you are, pausing, present. The thought settles over you as softly as the mist settled earlier, not demanding attention, just making itself known like a gentle hand on your shoulder. You are exactly where you are supposed to be tonight. There is a state between waking and sleeping. That is its own country. You know the border of it, the moment when thoughts stop being sentences and start being images, when the body stops reporting its position and discomfort and simply releases that project, when time stops moving in its familiar forward direction and starts being simply present, a still pool rather than a flowing river. You are approaching that border now. The stars above Machu Picchu are very bright. You watch them without trying to watch them, your gaze soft, unfocused, resting on the broad sweep of the galaxy rather than fixing on any particular point. The Milky Way is overhead now, the great band of it crossing from east to west, and in its light, Huayna Picchu is a dark sculpture against brightness. Your eyes feel wonderful, heavy and warm, closed most of the time now, opening occasionally, lazily, reluctantly, just to confirm that yes, the stars are still there. Yes, the mountain is still there. Yes, everything is exactly as you left it. And then they drift closed again. Behind your closed eyelids, the shapes of things continue to exist. The terrace, the stones, the great dark peak, the star-bright sky. These images come and go without effort, without narrative, without needing to be anything more than themselves. An impression of warmth, the softness of fiber against skin, the faint sound of the Andean night. You are very comfortable, you are very safe. The ancient city holds you, its stones and walls and terraces forming a kind of cradle in the mountainside, oriented toward sky and season and star. The people who built this place believed in the power of location. They believed that some places on Earth are more permeable to the sacred than others, that there are thin places where the distance between the ordinary and the extraordinary grows very small. They chose this place on purpose, and now it holds you, this sacred geography, this mountain sanctuary. The Urubamba bends around 3 of its 4 sides below in the darkness, far below the mist, an invisible silver guardian. The mountains ring the horizon in every direction. The stars, the same stars the builders tracked, the same stars that told them when to plant, when to celebrate, when to rest, arch overhead. You drift. The distinction between where you end and where the mountain begins grows softer, more uncertain. Your breath is the wind, your warmth is the warmth stored in stone. Your stillness is the stillness of the terraces, grass unmoving in the quiet night. If the mountain could speak, and perhaps it can in ways we have forgotten how to hear, it might speak slowly. It would speak the way old things speak, without hurry, without summary, without the anxious need to arrive at the point. It would speak in the language of stone and water and starlight, in the language of seasons and altitude and the long, patient cycles of growing things. It might say something like this: I have been here. I have been here through the warm centuries and the cold ones, through the rainy seasons that swept new soil down my terraces and the dry seasons that cracked my upper surfaces and left everything coated in fine, pale dust. Through the years when thousands of people climbed my paths each day and the years when no human foot touched my stones at all. I have been here for the sunsets, each one different, each one more beautiful than any attempt to describe it, each one an unrepeatable event, a color meeting a moment and then gone. I have been here for the mist, which comes every evening like a visiting relation, never announcing itself, simply arriving in the familiar way that long relationships allow. I have been here for the stars, the same stars, night after night, following their slow procession across the sky, the Milky Way always there in the darkness above the valley, the Southern Cross always finding its proper position in the southern sky. And I have been here for the people who rested here, for the ones who worked and built and worried and planned, and also, sometimes, in the early morning or the late afternoon, or on a quiet evening like this one, simply stopped and looked out across the valley and breathed, and were held by the mountain the way you are being held now. I remember all of them. I will remember you. You feel this, not quite as words, but as a wordless understanding, a sense of being received, of being seen. The mountain is not indifferent to you. It is, in its own silent, geological way, glad you are here. You sink deeper into the warmth of the blanket. Your breath is barely perceptible now, the slowest, gentlest rhythm, like a tide coming in on the most peaceful beach in the world, advancing just slightly with each inhale, retreating just slightly with each exhale, never rushing, never urgent. The stars above the mountain wheel imperceptibly. You cannot see them move, but they are moving, as they always have been, carrying the night forward in their ancient appointed paths. By morning, they will have traveled a long arc across the sky and disappeared into the brightening dawn. But that is morning. This is now. This is the rich, quiet, star-filled dark of a night in the Andes, and you are resting on a stone terrace wrapped in the warmth of a hand-woven blanket, and the mountain is breathing around you, and there is nowhere in the world you need to be but here. There are words, soft, round words that belong to evenings like this. Still, the quality of the air around you, which has not stirred in some time, which holds itself in place like someone practicing the art of being present. Still, deep, the darkness in the valley below, the kind of darkness that has depth to it, that you could fall into slowly and safely, the way you fall into sleep. Deep, soft. Every texture tonight is soft. The blanket, the mist, the quality of the starlight, the sound of the small night birds who have replaced the daytime birds in the shadows of the citadel. Soft, warm, the miracle of warmth, the stored warmth of stone, the alive warmth of alpaca fiber, the interior warmth of a resting body doing nothing except the quiet work of breathing and being. Warm, ancient. Everything here is ancient. The mountain itself, which pushed up through the earth's crust before the first human ancestor stood upright. The stone of the citadel quarried and shaped and placed by hands that have been still for centuries. The stars above, whose light is so old that the stars themselves may no longer exist. Ancient, peaceful. Yes, this above all, peaceful. The word that contains all the others, the word that means there is no threat here, the word that means you can let your guard down entirely, the word that means everything that matters is safe tonight, and you can rest. You are peaceful. The mountain is peaceful. The sky, in all its star-lit enormity, is peaceful. Let that peace fill you, the way the alpaca blanket fills with warmth. Let it settle into you layer by layer, from the surface of your skin all the way down, through the layers of thought and feeling and memory, until it reaches the center of you, the quiet place at the core, the place where you are always, even when everything else is noisy and complicated, essentially at rest. You found that place tonight. You are there now. The night deepens in the way that deep nights have, not dramatically, not with announcement, but by increment. The mist rises further and then stills. The stars wheel on their ancient track. The temperature drops another degree and another, and the air acquires the crystalline quality of very cold, very clear nights at altitude. Within the blanket, you are warm. You are barely here, or you are entirely here, more here than you have been all day, in fact. More present in this body, on this stone, beneath this sky, than you were in any of the rushed and fractured moments of the hours before this one. Presence is strange that way. We think of it as effort, as something we have to maintain by concentration and intention. But in the right circumstances, it happens on its own. The world becomes interesting enough, or quiet enough, or beautiful enough that the mind simply stays, stops reaching into the past or the future, rests in the present the way a bird rests on a branch, not holding on, not working, just perching, held by gravity and the simple fact of the branch. You are perching. The branch is this terrace, this night, this mountain. Somewhere below in the citadel, water runs through an ancient channel. You can hear it now that the wind has completely stilled. A thin, continuous murmur. The sound of water that has been flowing down this mountain through these channels for centuries. Not loudly, not urgently, just consistently. The way breath is consistent, the way the stars are consistent, the way the mountain is consistent. You add your own breathing to this chorus. The water, the stars, the mountain, and the chorus is complete. Everything that needs to be here is here. Before you drift the rest of the way into sleep, there is something worth knowing. This place, this terrace, this blanket, this sky, this mountain, it doesn't disappear when you wake up. It doesn't exist only in this story. Machu Picchu is there right now, as it has been every night for nearly 600 years. The stones are there, holding their quiet in the Andean dark. The Milky Way is there, arching over the valley. Huayna Picchu is there, floating above the mist, patient and permanent. And whenever you need it, whenever the days become heavy, whenever the noise of the world becomes too much, whenever you need to remember what quiet actually feels like, you can come back here. You only have to close your eyes. You only have to breathe in and out. The alpaca blanket will be here. The terrace will be here. The stars will be arranged in their patient patterns. The mountain will be standing in its immovable way, wearing its ring of peaks and mist and ancient stone. You are always welcome here. This place was built for rest, built for the human need to stop and look up and feel small in the best possible way. In the way that reminds you that the world is so much larger and more beautiful than the small, urgent circle of your daily concerns. The world is large. You are small and warm and safe within it. The mountain holds you. The stars keep watch. You are going now, not away from this beautiful place, but deeper into it, deeper into the warmth of the blanket, deeper into the quiet of the mountain, deeper into the slow, sweet dark that waits beneath the thinking mind, beneath the day's accumulated weight, beneath everything you carried here tonight. The stars above Machu Picchu are watching over you. The stone beneath you holds you with 600 years of practiced patience. The mist drifts around the terraces, soft as breathing, soft as the moment between one thought and the next. You breathe in, and the mountain breathes in with you, the whole enormous, ancient, patient body of it expanding slowly in the thin Andean night. You breathe out, and the mountain breathes out, a long, slow exhalation that carries the last of the day's warmth into the darkness, into the stars, into the high, cold air. The llama on the upper terrace has settled. The bird has sung its final 3 notes. The water in the channel runs on and on, whispering the same word it has always whispered, the word that stone and water speak together, the word that has no translation, but means something like, "This is how it has always been. This is how it will always be. Rest now. Rest. You rest." Your body is heavy, a wonderful, complete, earned heaviness. Your limbs have given up their readiness, their constant preparation for motion. They lie where they lie, warmly held, perfectly comfortable, not needing to be anywhere. Your mind is light, lighter than it was when you arrived here, much lighter. The day's thoughts have floated off one by one like clouds, leaving the mountaintop on a clear morning. There may be one or two left, still drifting somewhere in the edges, but they are high and distant and require no attention. Let them drift. Let them go where clouds go. You are going somewhere else, down through the soft dark, down through the warmth, down through the whisper of the mountain, into sleep, into the good, restorative, deep, safe sleep that waits for you at the bottom of this descent like a warm bed at the end of a long journey. You have arrived. Breathe in and out, and in and... The sanctuary in the clouds rests. The ancient city holds its quiet. The stars above the Andes turn slowly in their ancient paths, and somewhere on a stone terrace, wrapped in the warmth of an alpaca blanket, the colors of the mountain itself, you sleep. You sleep deeply, you sleep well, you are safe, you are held. Good night. Good night.